Wait. 3, 2, 1, and we're on, Chris, again. This is SHB Unfiltered, a podcast. This is the only podcast featuring people who stutter, talking about anything and everything, streaming live on Facebook every single day during lockdown. We are the only people doing this, really. Can't think of anyone else, but to be honest, I haven't bothered looking. So for now, it's just us. Chris, I'm here with Christopher Jackson, as always. CJ, my main man. And today, got another guest, got Tanvir Rayet. Say what's up, Tanvir.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on board.
No problem. And CJ, most importantly, what episode are we on?
I thought you were never going to ask. Episode 52 today.
Episode 52. I thought I'd play around a bit just to shake things up, see if you were flustered as the routine changed slightly, but you kept your cool, mate. You kept your cool.
Yeah, I managed to keep my cool.
52 is pretty cool. Tanvir, we had our special 50th episode on the weekend.
Right.
It was really good.
Guys, you know what? That's a very big achievement to get 52 live episodes out and just sharing the common cause that we all have. You know, hats off to you guys for making this happen.
No problem. And if you actually take a look at the previous episodes, we talk about a bunch of things, and even the ones that are titled with stuttering related topics, we talk so much crap on there. It's crazy. 52 hours of me, Chris, and a few others just having a laugh, because we've had some cool people on here. So I've had my friends on here, and they'll kind of giving Chris and AO insights into me before and personality, if stuttering was a problem or not. And same with Chris, he had his cousins on. So we had like different points of view from people who have seen us through the years. And we had a few guests on here who just talked about kind of what they're up to and their experiences, etc. So we've been meaning to connect properly for a bit too long now, and we made it happen.
I know, right? So I think this has been a year in the making, right?
Definitely. So we aren't going to grill you too hard, Tanvir, so don't worry. But tell us everything about you.
Where shall I start? What would you like to know?
You know what? Like start wherever you want, and we will be interjecting politely at times, just to maybe ask a follow-up question, or if we find kind of any similarities or anything as well, then we will jump in and keep it going. So yeah, just tell us a bit about yourself and most importantly as well about your PT business as well.
Sure thing. So my name is Tanvir, and I've been stuttering, I believe, from the age of 3 or 4. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I can't remember exactly when it started, but it started roughly about that age. And through my childhood, I had various speech therapy sessions and various language therapists that I'd spoken to, but they all kind of fell short and had just very embarrassing concepts on how to actually speak correctly, right? Yes, I remember one speech therapist at the time had told me to speak like a robot, and now that I'm grown up, I do understand what they were trying to teach, but the way that I had interpreted it at that time of my life was, hold on, I'm getting picked on at school, and then the last thing that I want to be doing is to be talking like RoboCop or something like that you ask about school, right? Because that's just asking like to get an ass whooping and just kind of just being picked on, right? So naturally, speech therapy, it just went out the window. Yes, I just kind of coasted through school, college, shied away from a lot of things, right? Because when I was in primary school, I was the loudest one there. I used to love doing plays and theatrical stuff and all kinds of presentations and stuff. But then as soon as secondary school hit, that's when things just kind of changed, and it's a new environment, new people, and I believe at that age you're just going through puberty as well, so lots of different things going on in the mind, and you kind of hold back. But then I found that my outlet for that was sports, right? Yeah, so I couldn't verbally voice my expression in the classroom because I don't want to get picked on, right? Yeah, so I'd rather take the D than take the A. So when the teacher would say, "Yeah, Tanvir, yeah, can you come up and like you present?" I used to go, "No." I found that I excelled at sports like a lot more, and then naturally through that, I've ended up doing a business in my life, which I get to help people on a day-to-day basis via personal training as well as coaching as well, right? So what I found through my many years of stuttering and being silent, what you'll find, and I'm pretty sure that you guys can confirm this as well, someone who stutters, we are constantly looking out for patterns, right? So we pick up things naturally that the normal eye will not, right? It's because we're listening more, so we're paying attention more to small little things just so we can be ahead of something, and naturally that falls in line with personal training and coaching people as well, right? Because like you're picking up on behavioral patterns that they are subconsciously doing, which is self-sabotaging them, and my job is to literally help them through that. And somehow I managed to end up doing personal training, and I absolutely love it because I get to speak to people every day.
That's fantastic.
That's the key thing.
I just want to interject a bit because like some of the stuff that you were talking about then was really cool, because we applied the same things to some of our like speech practices and our coaching as well, and things I also apply personally, because say for example with your PT training, you probably know that there could be people that if you're training them for like the chains, so if they are doing PTs for a 3-month period, and if they're improving it, if they're improving and changing, then it's great. But if you can't see that pattern change in their behaviors, then at the end of the 3 months when they're by themselves, there's a chance that kind of at some point they will start to go backwards, because if you aren't changing your behaviors, then any of your short-term gains, that they will be reversed. And we've found similar things, because part of the work we do, we try to push people into challenging themselves, pushing them through their comfort zones, and going through their practices and speech exercises, affirmations, and all this kind of stuff. But then if they aren't able to actually by themselves change those behaviors and start to take more ownership, when we stop holding their hand, problems begin, and then they start to, I guess, revert back slowly towards where they were before. And have you seen that before with your clients, or like past experience with people that you've trained with or trained?
I'd say with some clients, I have seen it become a case where you have to understand that when you're training a client, it's for them, it becomes a weekly thing where they get to escape from their reality, right? And they get to have time with someone who has a neutral perspective, and they kind of speak about things that they don't always get to speak about, and they just kind of get to let loose, right? And some people will make incredible changes, not only physically but also mentally, as well as in their personal life as well. But then some people, what I've seen is that they need someone to kind of coach them through not only training, but then in their day-to-day aspects as well, right? Yeah, but some people just want that friend that they can see consistently 3 to 4 times a week. That's going to help improve the quality of their life. And yeah, to answer your question, I've seen it sometimes, but then it's always about how can I help this person to the best of my ability and get them to slowly take that torch, right? Yeah, so rather than me holding the torch for them, my goal is to always get them to hold the torch and then just carry on running with it, because the last thing you always don't want to be is you want to be able to inspire people to have their own, right? So you want them to be able to stand on like at their own feet and get going. You don't want to be there for someone for the rest of their life, because the whole point of coaching is to actually get someone to do things by themselves eventually. But yes, I have seen it, and but then it's just about putting systems in place to help them get to that next barrier that keeps prepping up in their life, right? So we deal with more behaviors rather than training and diet, right? Because what's the real thing that's stopping someone from losing weight? Everyone knows how to lose weight: eat better, train more, eat real food, drink real fluids. But what's actually stopping them? It's the repetitive stories that they keep telling themselves inside of their head, and the frequent patterns that are showing up every day, which is stopping them. So it comes back to fear, right? Something that me, you, and Chris know very well about, I assume.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We know a lot about fear, but also what's very interesting is the way you coach your clients is very similar to what we believe at SHB. So at Stop Holding Back, we're very big on teaching people not only how to become better speakers, but the art of self-coaching, and not to be so heavily reliant on the coach. Be accountable, be responsible for yourself and your own progress, but also it's up to us to educate them on how to not be so heavily reliant on us as coaches. Was that something that you implemented straight away? Was that something that you had to learn? Okay, I'm realizing that this is becoming an issue because they are becoming too heavily reliant on us. How did that pan out for you?
I think so. So let me tell you how I had to even get into personal training, right? So I passed my course. I got 100% mark. I got top marks, right? And at the time, I went to one of the best companies that was out there at the time. I had to jump through various hoops, right? So I had to write like a 10,000 word paper on X, pass that flying colors. But then it came down to, in a very polite way, you have a speech impediment. We don't think our clientele will like that. So, and that was the very first time that the real world actually hit me, right? Because I had no idea about that kind of stuff happened in the real world, right? Because when you're young, you just think.
Wait, they actually. Sorry to interrupt, Tanvir.
Yeah.
Well, they actually said to you point blank, we feel like because you have a stutter, it'll be an issue for the potential clients.
It wasn't exactly like that, because they had to say it in a very correct way, that they couldn't get like a lawsuit behind it. Yeah, but then I understood what they were.
Is that how it sounded? Is that the way it sounded in your head? I guess because
yeah, I understood straight away. So I was like, right, okay, I get it, right? So that. So that in itself had a huge confidence knock on me, right? Here I am, I've jumped through every single hoop. I've got the top marks in everything that I possibly could get. And you're saying that you don't want to take me on because you feel that your clientele won't not appreciate it, but they'll not want that. But your company is based on helping people through personal struggles, wouldn't it be the ideal fit that you've got someone here that, hey, look, this is our guy, he's like this, but he's still helping people? That
Was
was
this
my
recent, by
mindset.
the way? Sorry
No,
to
no, no,
interrupt. Was,
no,
was
no,
this
no.
recent
So
or like a
this
long
is about
time ago?
9 years ago. So
That's still
this is about
fairly
9
recent,
years ago.
Chris. That's still fairly recent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That you
like,
would expect that wouldn't really be the case even 9 years ago.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so that was the first time, yeah, that I had ever experienced it. Yeah, so prior to that, yeah, I had retail jobs, but retail jobs is just like, yeah, for me, that was just like a time pass, right? Yeah, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life. But yeah, so that experience put me through depression for a very long time because that was a harsh truth, right? Because like in school you are protected, in college you are protected, in university you are protected to some degree, right? But then when the harsh reality of the world kicks in, it's like it's not a nice place. Like it's a very tough environment. So I think from there I had to volunteer at a community gym, and from that I just studied. I just absorbed, watched people, what they were doing, cross-referencing it to books and just various stuff that I could get my hands on, and then eventually I landed my first job. And within weeks, my diary was just absolutely full because I understood how to speak to people, right? Look, it's about understanding how to speak to people. And then from there, my career just evolved. And yeah, but Chris, you'll have to remind me what your question was again, because I've kind of gone off topic. What was your question again regarding?
Just to clarify, what made you work out the importance of allowing people to become their own coach and holding
Right.
themselves accountable for the long term, as opposed to being so heavily reliant on you? Because in your industry, I can imagine that people use it as an escape, so they don't really focus on what to do much outside of your training sessions with them.
Mm-hmm.
They rely on you telling them exactly which weight to pick up, which exercise to do, how many sets.
Yeah.
So at what point did you think like, no, I need to implement this? This has to be, they have to take more responsibility.
That's what I found was when I first had my first few clients, I was very much like, I have to speak to this person 24 hours a day. Yes, I have to make sure that stuff is on point. But then that kind of led me to kind of get burnt out, and then I realized that if I'm burning myself out, then I'm going to be not as productive to help my various other clients. So at that point, I had to ask myself, okay, where are your weaknesses? Go find someone who's currently doing something that you want to do that is much better than you. So I was 1.5 years into my PT job, and then I decided to actually leave a full client list, clientele job at the time, and I got an internship with a life coach. And this guy literally popped my entire thought process on what personal training was. He gave me tools to actually help coach people and take ownership and responsibility for what they're trying to achieve. Yes, so let's look at the end goal, where you want to be, and how do I do that? Because yes, I'm there for you for 1 hour and outside of that as well, but then you have to walk through that door. That you're the person that needs to walk through it. So he kind of explained to me how to kind of get that across to people, right? So what is the biggest fear? What's stopping someone from actually doing X? In fact, you've got to ask yourself, why is this person even trying to exercise? Is it because they have a story in their head where if they improve their physique, their love life will improve, their sex life will improve, they'll be more attractive to people? That's the real reasons why most people do exercise. It's so they can physically and mentally feel better, right? And it's the pursuit to have happiness, and happiness comes in the forms of relationships as well. So there's a lot of dynamics at play, but I'd say that was the turning point where I had to realize I need to give people more tools right? How do I hold people accountable? What do they need to do outside of that 1 hour, right? Because it's only 1 hour in the day where you're seeing me, but then what are you doing for the other 23 hours? And that's how you improve, right? How many repetitions are you doing of X to get to where you want to be? So just like us, so we want to speak better, so we need to increase the repetitions of practicing speaking, and that's how we get better at it. But then how do we hold that accountable? I need to put it in my diary. I need to see, what do I value more in life at the moment? Is it TV, or is it improving this, which will contribute towards that, and that will contribute towards where I want to be? And yeah.
Tanvir, how did you actually keep people or keep your clients accountable? How did they become transparent with you? Because I'm sure they would have had kind of days when they didn't hit what they need to do in the diary, or they could have had like a day or two. And then did they have that transparency with you to be straight up and say, look, I didn't do this on Monday and Tuesday, or did they try to cover it up? I'm sure there may have been a mix, but what was the general vibe from your clients?
As at the start, yes, I had to test this out with various people. Like, you see which people actually needed it and which people don't. Right? Some people just literally need like a personal trainer to help them get from where they currently are to where they want to get to, and they've got control over the other aspects of their life. Brilliant. Some people need more coaching in the other aspects. But how did I do it? I got them to be transparent by the very first conversation that I have with someone. I always ask them to be transparent. Yes, I'll be transparent as well. Yes, so there is no right or wrong. Yes, so my job is not to shout at you. Right? My job is not to get angry at you. Yeah, but then my job is to showcase and to highlight to you where you went wrong, and then identify what happened and why it happened. Right? Who came up at 3 o'clock to your desk, and you just spent like an hour speaking about nothing, which caused you to do no work. Right? Okay. So what needs to happen in future reference? I need to tell Mary that, let's speak at 5 o'clock when I finish work, and then that way you're getting your task done. And it's just simple things like that. So being able to say no, right? So like a lot of people don't say no, and they're afraid of saying no to people. And I think I've been that guy as well. For many, many years, I would always say yes, 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 but then I would have to suffer the repercussions of that. So I would say having transparency by making that the actual forefront of everything that I do, right? Because your numbers will so your numbers will always speak for themselves, right? So when you do your check-ins, and if you said to me, oh yeah, that you've done something, but then the numbers say you're something different, the math can't lie, right? So yeah, so that's how I kind of start off my consultations, so with everyone, and actually see what they actually need, right? Do they need a coach, or do they need a trainer?
That's a really interesting take. And I think that's something that we could actually incorporate, Chris, because half the time, people that we speak to, I think they just need someone to speak to, just like a soundboard, and just to share some of their struggles and talk through a few things. Then there's other people who actually need specific direction, and they would want kind of exercises or prescribed process to prepare them for some kind of conversation with a manager or job interview, for example. So so I don't think that many people who are involved in speech coaching do that in that assessment at the start. They purely just go straight in and apply whatever they believe works for them. And because of that, there's quite a lot of confusion with how to approach stuttering in the community, because between Chris, myself, and Ayo, we have met hundreds of people who stutter over the past 2 or 3 years now. And we've seen like a wide variety of personalities, first of all, wide variety of groups. So there's different groups and there's different techniques and approaches and stuff. And then there's different friction between these groups. And quite a lot of it is purely because people don't want to actually step back and pay attention to what other people are saying and react to that, as opposed to keep imposing ideas. People don't want to actually stay quiet and pay attention, because I guess for people who stutter, struggling to speak to other people is a pain. So when you get a chance to speak to someone who stutters, you just want to say everything you have. And just say everything.
Someone's finally talking to me. Let it all out.
Exactly. Like, and you can kind of say, oh, so these people are speaking to me on the same playing field. We have we are playing the same game now.
Yeah. I totally get it, man.
The same rule set.
Any coach, it's their job to look at their client's life from a bird's eye perspective, right? Yeah, because your client can't see the hurdles that are about to present themselves, right? And rather than setting them up for failure, you need to look at what's coming up from a bird's eye view. Hence why you have a very in-depth conversation. So you want to find out more about them before you even start coaching them, right? And that's where you can identify stuff that's going to trigger them. And if I know something's coming up in my client's life, I will address that way beforehand, so they're already prepared for that, right? So if they're going to be going out with their friends on a Friday night for a meal, and they're meant to be dieting, rather than them being that one individual who knows that they're already overweight, their friends know that they're overweight, and for them to order a salad, that's just adding to like the wound, right? It's the last thing you want to be like is like a social outcast with your friends, right? So what do? You told me, oh, Tan, you know what, next Friday I'm going out with my friends and we're going out for a meal, right? You tell me which restaurant you are going to. I'm going to research that restaurant. Yes, I'm going to look at the menu. I'm going to look at what foods you like, and then I'll make that work for you. But then you have to adhere to everything else I tell you to do during the week, so you don't look like an outcast on that day. So that way you're still hitting every single goal that we had, and you still get to go out with your friends and have fun. And that's a win-win. And that's what a coach should do. So that's my perspective.
Wow, Chris. Sign me up to Tanvir Rayet PT. Bloody hell.
And me as well. But it just proves that it's not a one size fits all. That just proves even more that it's not a one size fits all. Everyone has their individual goals, and it's up to you to make their lives as comfortable as possible, but still achieve the original goals that are set out. The question that I got for you, Tanvir, is like with us and speech coaching, we feel it's very important to, at the beginning, manage people's expectations. And I imagine that must be something that you have to deal with quite often. I'd imagine people come to you and say, right, I'm getting married in a month and I want to lose X amount of pounds. How tricky is that situation when it comes your way?
I'm a firm believer in being honest and transparent, right? So it comes down to what are you willing to do in return for your reward, right? So if someone's getting married in 1 month's time and they want to lose, let's say they want to lose 4 kilos, which is achievable, right? Yes, realistically, yeah, that is achievable, but then that person has to do everything that I told them to do. But then you have to explain to them that the journey, it's going to be a lot harsher than if you had started 2 months ago, right? So like the more time you have, and the more of an easier journey we can take, right? So it's a much more chilled out journey. But if you only have like 4 weeks, then it's up to that coach. But I would always be 100% transparent. And if they're saying that they want to go from a size 16 to a size 8 in a month, I'll be very honest and say, no, that's not going to happen.
Tanvir, I've got a question that is, I think, strictly PT related, but do you find it easier to coach people that want to increase their weight than to drop their weight? So by increase weight, I mean build more of a muscular structure. Is that easier? Is there something with the mentality that they've come to, or just because of the nature of it? Is it easier to coach people to build than to cut?
I'd say from my experience, every client that I've ever had, they've always wanted to lose weight, right? But then like the byproduct of that always is that you look bigger because you've cut down fat, and then we've worked on just working your muscles. And the person looks bigger by actually being more leaner as well. People that want to put size on, even then I will focus on dropping fat first, right? Because your body needs to be able to understand how to use carbohydrates and other macronutrients the correct way, right? So rather than we trying to bulk you up and you're already on the softer side, that's not going to be the best strategy that can approach, right? Because let's say we put some size on you and you're still looking a bit podgy, then you're gonna have to spend time trying to cut that off again. So we've taken 2 steps forward, but then taking 3 steps back. Why not get lean first? Once you're lean, and then we can add muscle, which will stay for the long term. So that's something that I always try to explain to people. I naturally find training female clientele a lot easier, solely because they're not too worried about what the numbers say on the weights, whereas guys tend to naturally be like, oh yeah, so I should be lifting more weight. But then it's not always about how much you can lift. It's about technique, form, nutrition, all of these key aspects of a perfect triangle that have to be there, right? But yeah, that's my answer to that one.
Really interesting, man. Really interesting. And something else that just came to mind when you were explaining the change and how people can cut, and then as a consequence of the training, they start to grow. How do you kind of start to adjust expectations and targets during that process? Because like I'm sure from day one, your targets and the expectations that you have of that person are different to day 50, for example. So
right,
do you start to pivot at some point and change their expectations and ceiling, or do you do it in a more reactive way and see if their goals are changing?
So what I always like to do is I'm a firm believer that if you're not tracking anything, then you're walking blind, right? So when a client says to me that they want to kind of look like X, we need to look at their body type, where they're currently at, and then manage their expectations on time frame, as well as how realistic it is for them to get to that physique place, right? And then as time goes forward, because we are constantly taking photos, we can gradually see, okay, so you are actually changing, because the client will never be happy with what they see. Yeah, but then if I show them what they were 6 weeks ago, they'll be like, wow, what, that was me back then? He said, I've made a huge change, right? And then it's always about continuously asking, okay, where are you going to be happy? Yes, happy. Are you happy? Are you happy now? Are you happy now? Right? So where else do we need to head to, right? So that's even with me as well. Yes, even with my training, I think I suffer with, what is that word? It's where you look at yourself in the mirror, and you see yourself as something else, but then when everyone else sees you, you're like, oh my god, wow, muscle dysmorphia. That's it. Yes,
Is that a term
dysmorphia.
actually? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the new one for me. I'll be throwing that around soon after lockdown.
And me as well.
Yeah. So muscle dysmorphia is basically like when you look at yourself in the mirror, and you see that you don't look great, and so forth and so forth. Yeah, but then when other people see you, and they're like, God damn, man, you look amazing. Yeah, but then that's just something that's just been drilled inside of my head. Yeah, because I wasn't excelling verbally in my career, I had to put myself into the only thing that I had control of, which was my body, right? So it's kind of like, right, you need to go 100% into that to survive, right? So this was like a game of survival for me. So it's something that I'm never going to be happy with. But then through the years, I've learned that, right, my happiness is not dictated by how I look, but it's dictated by how I feel in the present moment, what makes me happy in my life. And that is something that I constantly refer back to when I ask my clients, how do you feel about where you are right now, right? And 9 times out of 10, they are over the moon that they got to where they are. And then it's a case of, okay, how much more further can we refine the saw, right? Yeah, so let's sharpen the saw even more. Let's get better at this, and let's get better at this. And then it should come to a point where you're just operating like a machine, right? So last night I was watching on Netflix Michael Jordan's documentary, right? If you watch his work
At The Last Dance.
That's the one. Yeah. If you watch his work ethic, it's like, wow, you know what? That is so inspiring. And that's how I kind of try to kind of take little nuggets from stuff like that and just apply that day to day. So we can only hope to aspire to be like someone, right? Yeah, so we have our idols, so we have our mentors, and we have people that we aspire to be, but it's the characteristics that they portray that we like. And those are the things that I try and take away from various people, the people that have inspired me to do what I do.
Very, very cool. I've got something for CJ actually that Tanvir said. So when he asked his clients the question, so when they look in the mirror, they are always unhappy with how they're on the present, because they're always comparing themselves to a potential future self, etc., etc. Now we can actually say that we've experienced the same with people that we've coached with their speech. They've achieved so many cool things and come a long way, but they're still not happy because they focus on, I guess, the small negative things that are currently happening around them, but forget about the journey that they've been on. And CJ can actually provide a bit more insight on that, because he had that kind of mentality before as well, but I've drummed it out of him, I think. I'm joking.
No, to be honest, it's actually really funny, because a lot of what Tanvir was describing, I had the exact conversation with someone who stutters today. And he was originally asking me, like, how was your speech after you first started working on it? What was it like 3 or 4 months into your journey? Because I've been on this journey for over 6 months, and I've been trying to do this, and I haven't felt like I've made progress in this area and that area. And I was like, what you got to realize is Kobe Bryant was my idol.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was my favorite player, and I studied his work ethic. And when I started to work on my speech, it wasn't a hobby for me. It wasn't something that I was just trying out. I was
You had to do
obsessed
it.
with it. I immersed myself in it. I was like a raving lunatic where I would be finding every speaking situation, every challenge I could put myself in. If I had a little fear that I wasn't going to be able to say a word, I was going straight out to the nearest shop to ask for batteries if I had problems with B sounds that day. Or I would be ordering skinny lattes when I don't even drink coffee just because I couldn't say skinny. I was obsessed with it. And he was like, I've been doing this for 6 months. And I was like, but are you obsessed with it? Is it really that important to you? Are you really as committed as you want to be, but really deep down, you know, your actions are not showing that? And it's really interesting to hear you go back to Michael Jordan, because obviously basketball is my favorite sport. But then on the flip side, I said, okay, so what position were you in 6 months ago? How far have you come? Okay, you've not achieved exactly what you've wanted to in a short space of time, but look how far you have come. You're doing this, you're speaking more at work, your whole social skills have improved, your whole personality is beginning to change. But yeah, we don't look at that. We just look at where we want to be, and we're constantly thinking, look how far away I am, rather than, well, look how much closer I am to it now than I was. And I
You've got to
think that's
celebrate your wins.
definitely, yeah, that's it. But I think that's a natural characteristic of someone that stutters. We're always very self-critical. We're always very hard on ourselves. We try to go for
100%.
perfection all the time. And that's definitely something that me and Ruben and AO try and work with people to get over. The question I got for you, Tanvir, you know, you said at school that you played sports heavily. And that was your way of maybe compensating for your stutter, trying to get maybe popular within the school, and it was your expressive outlet. Was when you left school and you got into uni, was personal training that natural progression for you, but still keep the sports route? Did that have any influence in you deciding, or was that always something that you wanted to get into?
So when I was at school, you're right, even the sports that I played, so they weren't team sports. They were always single person sports like tennis.
I was going to say badminton for a second.
Tennis, badminton, table tennis, jiu-jitsu. I done 12 years of jiu-jitsu. Absolutely loved it, because I was the tallest, and then I used to get
CJ's giggling there. Come on, let's go on the mats. I'll get my white belt out. Come on, I'll get my 3 stripe.
I'll come in my white belt with no stripes.
Yeah, that's my biggest regret, that I stopped doing jiu-jitsu. All right, because when I went to college, you know, as you do, girls, and there's just a new environment, right? So you just kind of stopped doing.
Say no more.
Right? Yeah. So I was like, oh man, right? So now that I think back, I'm like, oh crap, man, you had something so good, like you were disciplined. You had like you know what? I'd known, my sensei knew my situation, and he always used to demonstrate all the moves on me. I always used to get like pissed off at that, right? But then now I understand why he'd done that. He was trying to improve my ability, like to show up, take a beating, but then still know how to handle it, right? Still know how to get out of it. And
that is wicked, by the way. That is wicked.
Yeah, so now he's like, I haven't heard from him like in many years. Like, if he's still out there, Sensei Mike Yates, you had a huge impact on my life, and I thank you so much for everything that you had taught me, right?
Was he Japanese jiu-jitsu or Brazilian?
This is Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So
standing jiu-jitsu.
Standing, and a lot to do with weapons as well, right? It's how to like you disarm, and then from there you would go into just grappling and chokes and locks and so forth and so forth.
What's your favorite choke? Go on.
Huh? I can't even remember. But there's one move that I used to do, and then I don't even remember the names of half the moves, but then I just know what it was. Like so.
I subbed my first person. I subbed my first person, I think 6 months into training, and that feeling is so good, because for so long you're just getting thrown about, tapping, strangled, joints bending the wrong way, and I got that person with the electric chair. Do you know what that one is? Is when you force them into splits. Is when you force them into splits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I was pretty proud of that one. But carry on. Sorry.
Wait, so you're gonna answer me something, right? Was that the most satisfying feeling that you've ever got, that you've finally been able to be like, yes, I have one upper hand on someone else in life rather than me always taking the crap?
Oh, without a doubt, because you spend months just turning up and just getting ragdolled by people bigger and smaller than you.
No. Yes, what I mean by that is like, yeah, so not in the sense of jiu-jitsu, but then all of that stuff that you've held on for many, many years of, like, you know, stuttering, speech, don't talk, don't do that job where you have to speak, don't do that presentation, and then finally taking out something in a very controlled way, and then you just execute it and win. How did that must feel like? Yes, like you know, you like, I've applied myself and I'm the man today.
That was a great feeling. But if I'm being straight up, because this was fairly recent as well, I had already kind of had quite a few successes speech-wise. And I think I mentioned before, I was practicing Thai boxing for quite a long time.
Okay.
So I did Muay Thai for about 8.5 years. So I competed there as well. So I had that feeling, but in the ring instead. Dropping sweeps and leg kicks at people.
That's awesome, man.
And that's where, like, in that sense, the thing that you just described, I got that there. So by the time I went into BJJ, I was quite chilled already. I didn't have that hyper aggressive beginner mentality, because I had already had those humbling experiences through Thai boxing. Just been battered over the years. I've been to Thailand to train 3 times now. And it's a wake up call. Like imagine, because when you are there, if you're at a good camp as well, that take care of you, you'll be training every day apart from Sunday. And I got to a point where I was messed up. And there was a day when I just slept in a bit too late, and I got a knock at the door. Yeah, get up now and come. Put my trainers on, 7K run in the heat, come back, clinch, pad, sparring, 2 hours later, training done. And you thank them, because it was hell, but these are the times when you build character, you build resistance, and you break yourself, because they look at you and they have disappointment in their face. You've come to their country to train their sport and you're sleeping. So it's really, really good, like these experiences. So by the time I got to BJJ, I had already had those messed up kind of cherry popping experiences from then on, but it still was satisfying, because you go from being pretty good at Muay Thai to rubbish at something else, and you just wish, man, I just want to punch you right now, because they'll be choking you, grabbing your gi, flinging you about this and that, and so getting that sub was a great feeling. Really, really good.
Amazing. You have to take me back to your question again. Sorry. So your question was, so what got me to get into personal training from school, or I believe it's Chris's question, was it?
Yeah, CJ's question. Go on, CJ. Remind us.
What was it a natural progression because you used sport as your expressive outlet to compensate for your stutter growing up?
I'll tell you the truth. So me growing up, I only had 2 things that I was great at. that was art and sports, right? So at uni, I went down a totally different path, right? So I went on to study 3D digital animation, solely because I loved film. I loved film because I spent so many years watching films to learn how to talk, right? So I would watch like famous actors just speaking in different pitches and tones and characters, and then I would try to mimic that so I could just practice speaking, right? And then I thought, oh, cool, you know what? So I've got a passion for art. I've got a passion for film. Yeah, let me see how this goes. And it started off well, but then I kind of found myself, I was just staring at a screen for like 15 hours a day, and that drove me nuts, right? Because that reminded me that this is going to be a job where you're going to be sitting in front of a desk and you can't ever speak to anyone. So you're just literally like a name and a number, and that's it. And that's something that's always been told to me, that, yeah, you should do a job where you don't have to speak to people. And that's kind of like self-suicide, right? So I said to myself, no, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to do this. And then I dropped out of uni. Took me like about a year and a half to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. In that time being, I was just doing retail work. And then I had to kind of go through a process and find out what I was good at and what I actually liked doing in life. I liked helping people, and I liked speaking to people, and I liked sports and exercise. How can I make that into a career, personal training? So I was like, right, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I may not be the most greatest looking guy, but I will definitely be able to help people, right? Because people that want PT, 9 times out of 10, they want to speak to someone about what they're not happy with in life, right? And then that just led me to kind of further dwell on what is it that people are actually after. And that's how I got to where I am. And that was my outlet. I got to speak to people every day. That was my happiness. Every single day, my life is perfect because I get to speak to people. And that's how I celebrate my wins every day. When I don't get to speak to people, that's when I feel, right, you haven't practiced on your craft today.
Awesome, man. I just want to, sorry, I just want to share with you something. So we got a comment from the Facebook live feed from Leo, who says, interesting podcast. Nice to listen to something else than speech. Great topic. And he likes training too. So he's finding this very valuable. Tanvir. Tanvir, we are into like the last few minutes. So definitely thank you very much for coming on. And please bear in mind, we are on every day. So if you want to come back, just drop me a message. Tell me when you're free, if it's tomorrow or Friday, whatever. It's cool, man. Just drop me a text. And
by all means. Hopefully, when this COVID is over, we can all meet up as well.
Definitely. Guys, any final words from the two of you before we put this one away?
I just want to ask Tanvir quickly. Sorry, Tanvir. I just want to ask you quickly, for people that are watching, if they want to get involved with your services or ask you for help, how can they reach out to you and your business to get help with their training or their programs or just life help?
Cool. First of all, Chris, thank you so much for giving me a mention there. I appreciate that. So you guys can follow me on Instagram. It's Tanvir Rayet Fitness, or you can send me an email at info@tanvirrayet.com, and just send me a message, and I'll be more than happy to get in touch with you guys and find out what your biggest struggles are, and let's have a chat, right? So my doors are always open. Your Instagram, that's the best place to get hold of me. What I'll do is I'll text Ruben my ad, and you can possibly just write it in the comments below or something.
Yeah, that's cool. We can share the hell out of that, man. Don't worry about it.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Tanvir, we will allow you to have the final words. So how has your experience been with us this evening? We aren't too bad, are we?
No, but you guys are lovely. You know what? it feels so great to actually speak to like-minded people that do stutter. Like I said at the start, I've never had any friends that stutter, and it's fantastic to be part of a community. And let's raise more awareness about this. And if there's anything that I can do, by all means, just give me a shout, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Cool. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you
That was
very much, Ruben.
That was a great podcast, and I would like to say thank you for everyone who listened in to the wise words from someone else other than the two of us. I'm sure they're bored of our voices by now. Not, or just Chris maybe. But everyone, Tanvir, CJ, thank you very much for another fantastic podcast. SHB Unfiltered, episode 52 is done and dusted. CJ, you know what to do.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Tanvir, thank you very much for joining us today. This is SHB Unfiltered Podcast, episode number 52. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, stop holding back.